My friend Emil is one of those people who listen to ASMR to go to sleep, and when I say ASMR, I mean the specific genre of ASMR which is not actually ASMR, but just someone speaking at you with a little roleplay story behind it, usually a comforting or cozy sort of thing. One night, while he was listening to one of these story videos, he was pretty startled by a sudden jump scare in the video. He told me about it on call, and we watched it back together. Curious, we watched a few more of this channel's videos, and discovered this was not a one-off troll, and was in fact what appeared to be a very interesting ARG. Radish ASMR presents as a normal ASMR story channel ran by someone named Akemi, but there are secrets buried within that we want to discover today on the Panopticon Theatre. Before we hop in, just as a note, the creator of this channel who identifies himself as Akemi is not the person speaking in the videos. All the speakers are hired voice actors, credited in the descriptions of the videos. It's worth noting that Akemi seems to be some sort of persona at any rate. Let's quickly go through all the videos and look at anything interesting we find within. I'm going to be keeping it short and sweet as we have a lot to get through, so we'll only mention what's relevant. We'll do all the actual analysis once we've gone through all the videos. This ARG isn't complete yet, but there's a lot we can look at and try and uncover. All the regular videos are titled the same, ASMR RP, the actual title, then a few tags indicating the subject and mood of the video and its story. The first section of videos are all labelled F for A, meaning female for any. This means the speaker is female and the subject, aka the person the audio is directed at, is any, meaning any gender, they them pronouns are used. The first video is Your Best Friend Discovers Your Illness, tagged with sad, caring friend and friends to lovers. It starts out pretty normal, but at the end it's revealed that the listener is actually dead from an unspecified illness, and the speaker is talking to their grave. This isn't necessarily weird in itself, but it's oddly sad for an ASMR video of this style, and the tags are a lie. In the end, she said she has no feelings of romance for us, although she found in our diaries that we had some for her, so it's not friends to lovers at all. Also, technically the title is off as she's not discovering our secret now, but already knew it by the time the video starts, the secret being our illness. Since I don't want to keep repeating myself, I'll just note here that this is a common theme throughout the videos, the titles and tags not quite lining up with the actual content. The next video, Comforting Your Scared Cuddle Buddy Girlfriend, features us snuggling with our girlfriend in bed while she's a little spooked in the dark. It's largely uneventful, but you might notice some of the commenters are a little spooked themselves. That's because this video used to have a jump scare at the end, with a glitchy face and loud static. This jump scare has been edited out of the video now, and we'll discuss what happened to that later. The video, Your Childhood Friend Confesses to You, is uneventful aside from again the title being wrong, and in fact the opposite of what happens. The following one, however, presents some more oddities. In Kitsune Gamer Girl Comes Over to Play, we can hear some odd noises, a muffled scream or yell with static, a weird breathy sound,
Really kind of me.
and some noises that I can't quite define around the end of the video. It sort of sounds like the ocean or someone dragging something over gravel, or perhaps the sound of driving. There's also a point where her laugh sounds a little odd.
Was racing.
The following video, things get really off script. In Your Best Friend Goes Too Far at the cafe, we meet up with a friend who wants to spend the day together. However, we get a work call and have to leave. We get into an argument with her saying we never spend time together anymore, and in this argument she accidentally pushes us down the stairs. As we hear her panicking, calling for an ambulance, our consciousness fades out. It's good to note at this point that saying goes off script is a little wrong. Akemi does in several videos use free-to-use ASMR scripts available online, and this is one of them. It's not necessarily notable if one video has a sad, dark, or otherwise negative ending. Whilst it's not as common, this is something that many ASMR videos do. What is notable is that Akemi typically has more videos with negative endings, or the titles and tags don't reflect the content. There are also some where the ending is changed, but we'll get back to that. In Girlfriend Goes Too Far Now She Wants to Apologize, it's mostly a normal phone call until right at the end when the door creaks open and she speaks from in your room with a deep demonic voice.
I know. You can hear me.
Baby. Your Best Friend Discovers Your Depression continues this spiral, as everything is normal until the video suddenly glitches out, the room goes dark, and someone scuttles across the screen. Someone familiar. It appears to be the girl from Comforting Your Scared Cuddle Buddy Girlfriend. This seems to be the point where people started picking up that this was an ARG situation. The next one is interesting for a completely different reason. The video itself is entirely normal, following a mermaid who's asking the listener about Christmas traditions. Notably, every time she says the word mermaid, it plays a little note.
Because I'm a mermaid.
These notes in order play this melody. I reached out to my musician friend Hiyumi for any insight, who provided this information about the tune. We couldn't find any code in it itself, but maybe you can see some. More importantly, this melody, which the community typically calls the mermaid melody, appears in different forms in several other videos in this channel, possibly indicating a connection point between them. Also of note is a slight adjustment to the public script, which is that the mermaid introduces herself with the name Sakura. We don't get a lot of names in this series, and each one we do get seems important, so let's remember that. Then, the really interesting stuff starts. The next video is clearly different from the rest, titled 1000 Transmission, which has a weird glitchy thumbnail and no description. It starts with a quiet conversation that's hard to make out through the static, though I've tried to transcribe it here for you. Then the speaker addresses us, or at least the recording. She affirms this is not a normal ASMR channel and tells us this place is diluted. She doesn't know why, but something is present. She also refers to a we, meaning she's part of some group. They have a name for this disturbance, but it's cut off before we can hear it fully. It does sound like it starts with an A though. She asks for the person who the video is directed at to contact them if they find anything. We then see this glitchy symbol. We'll see this symbol in the future too, so keep it in mind. What it actually is, however, nobody's sure. The closest assumption we have is that it's a pillow from the Cuddle Buddy video flipped and mirrored a few times, though personally I'm not sure on that. We go back to normal videos for now though, kind of. Best Friend Visits You in the Hospital is actually the first and so far only sequel video, following on from Your Best Friend Goes Too Far at the Cafe. This one continues the script from that, with the listener in hospital. Now, if you find this script online, you'll see it's a 3-part script, with the listener recovering and spending time with the speaker, but this is not what happens in this version. Here, the listener briefly wakes up, but after the speaker begins apologizing for hurting them, we hear their heartbeat speed up, as does the EKG monitor. The speaker calls for help, but the listener dies. As the speaker cries, we hear a sad version of the mermaid melody play in the background, as the video ends. So that's weird and clearly deliberate to change the script so drastically. This is also the only video where we see a repeat character, so that's something too. Studying with your tsundere tutor is normal, aside from a small whisper at the end that I think says help.
Do without my help.
Your bodyguard scolds you for getting into danger is also normal, until at around 8:26, where the video glitches when she says the line, "I'm replaceable." You can also see the girl from your childhood friend confesses to you, standing in the background with a tilted head.
That happened.
I'm replaceable.
Best Friend Holds You During a Thunderstorm is a pretty big one. At around 5:38, just after she tries to say I love you to the listener, she starts to panic, seemingly breaking character and possibly fighting against something. A shadowy figure can be seen in the window, and we can hear things breaking as it sounds like the speaker shoves someone away. The image girl begins to cry, saying it's happening again. She begs for it to stop as the screen glitches get worse, the shadow in the window disappearing. The speaker insists she didn't mean to push us or do anything, but the girl from the first video, who has the same silhouette as the one in the window, appears behind her. Everything cuts out and the speaker says, "It's here." All we hear after that are slow footsteps. The text on the screen also flickers into something else a few times. Once it becomes "It wasn't my fault," then near the end it becomes this, Srazlau. Now Srazlau doesn't mean anything, but it is importantly an anagram for Lazarus, which we'll come back to later. Also, a lot of people tie the "I didn't mean to push you" line to Your Best Friend Goes Too Far at the Cafe, in which we're pushed down the stairs, which could be true, though I personally interpreted the pushing and breaking sounds as her pushing the listener within the audio, then apologizing for it. The next video is normal, as is the one after. Girlfriend comforts you after losing a close friend, though at the end as she says "I love you," the video fades out into static. Upset Roommate Comes Home from Concert Early starts out normal. It's another publicly sourced script, but around 7:56, the video starts to deviate from the script. Instead of her confessing and being accepted, the listener seems to get upset at her for being rude about their friend. They leave and she says this.
Why can't I get it right? Why can't I just get it right once?
Kidnapped by a caring yandere is about as normal as a video like that can be, but interestingly she does say a time at one point. 63 days, 16 hours and 23 minutes is apparently the time she spent watching the listener, but that date, going backwards from the day this video was uploaded, is exactly the day that Your Best Friend Goes Too Far at the Cafe video was uploaded, marking it again as a potentially important one. Speaking of cafes, it is of slight note that they're mentioned very frequently on this channel, though that could just be because they're a convenient set for these stories. In Your Best Friend Calls to Check on You, We hear the mermaid melody kick in at 5:26. The video has been a phone call, however it suddenly stops being one with no in-story explanation, like in Girlfriend Goes Too Far Now She Wants to Apologize. The speaker seems to almost break character, saying how she's doomed to fail over and over, much like she said previously an upset roommate comes home from concert early, but she insists she isn't ready to give up. She also says she isn't sure who she is anymore, but whoever she's speaking to is always important to her. The next one is a pretty big lore drop as we reach 2000 transmission. We hear a panicked voice saying it's getting worse and saying this has become more than a one-man job. She reaches out for help to anyone who may be listening, and she can't remember something. She's being targeted by something and asks us to look for messages wherever we can. Finally, she says this: "Find Lazarus." There's also several codes and such within the video. We see the pillow image again. There's binary reading "I can hear you, can you hear me?" There's tap code at the end saying "Who will you tell?" There's also two spectrogram images hidden in the audio. This girl, who we haven't seen in the videos yet, saying "Don't ignore me," and another pillow image with the text saying "Relive them." There's also a code reading Sunday, April 4th, 1976 in base 64, and this led to the discovery of another YouTube channel, JTristan0404. On this channel, we see the video Eligibility Examination 1. A child's voice tells us not to continue if we're not sure what this is, and when yes is selected on the prompt, we get this: "Welcome to Lazarus." Apparently, the listener has contacted them, and this is to see their suitability for their services. At this point, we can assume Lazarus is some sort of company, initiative, or project of some sort, so I will be referring to them as such. The listener is asked a couple of very weird questions.
Do you fear understanding what others cannot?
Yeah.
Have you ever lost someone you cannot live without?
No.
Are you the intended recipient of this message?
Yeah.
You are a liar.
There's also some more codes here. Ignorance will make you happier, Radish, which confirms the connection to the Radish ASMR channel, and the name Anna. Your crush is your secret admirer is completely normal, as your co-worker accidentally confesses to you, though there's a sort of weird line in the description. As always, thank you for listening. I'm sorry for uploading more slowly, but I feel strange, almost like something doesn't want me to. I hope you all aren't upset with me. The Enderday Invades the Wrong Apartment has some more glitching and codes, which I'll put on screen. Also, she's the same girl from the spectrogram image in 2000 transmission. And right at the end, we can hear a voice say, "Annabelle, will you listen to me?" Annabelle and Anna are likely the same person. Also, from this video forward, they're all labelled F for M instead of F for A, as in female for male. Then, we're on to 3000 transmission. As a note, these videos were being posted as the channel hit the relevant subscriber milestones. The start of the video has very garbled audio. Community member Kucheroth has attempted to understand them here. We then hear one side of a conversation, as in Annabelle S answers some questions. It sounds to me like she's doing a similar set of questions as are in the eligibility examination, and if we look at her answers, it could be the exact same set of questions. We then hear her having a giggly interaction with someone, the audio glitching as she jokingly says, "I give up." The rest of the audio seems to be distorted audio from previous videos. There are a few other codes in this video which I'll put on screen. Roommate comforts you after a bad day is normal aside from a flashed code, one part in video, one part in audio, reading "There are 10" and 10 failures. JTristan0404 also posts another video around this time titled with 3 dashes. It has a 1 shown, then the text, "Oh my dear friends, where are the rest of you?" Comforting the popular girl at a party also features this phrase in the white text code at the end, but let's get back to the start first. Importantly, the speaker introduces herself with a familiar name, Annabelle. Then with that white text we see some purple codes in the same format as the J. Tristan name, M. Logan, A. Lilia, K. Olivia, K. Maria. At 5:30 we see a code that reads, "Mere drops in a great ocean, and yet together you hold the key to something important. Each tells a different story and a different lie. What brings us together is not our motive, but our circumstance. And yet, all that resulted was failure. Failures to be replaced as fast as they were chosen. What am I then?" Around this time, the community was able to use information from hidden sources such as video tags to find multiple other accounts connected to the channel across Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit, which all had the same formatting of a letter plus a forename. I would presume the letters indicate the first letters of their surnames. Each includes a short questionnaire similar to the first eligibility examination video, which I'm showing on screen now. They also include a coded word in each video. These appear to possibly be the mentioned 10 failures, 10 people. Though why they're failures we don't know yet. Let's keep going. Popular girl teases, flirts, and stands up for you is mostly normal, save for the figure of the girl from the Your Best Friend Discovers Your Depression video standing in the background at 350, with some noises that could be screaming. The description is also a little odd. Thank you so much for listening. We're almost halfway there. Shy girl wants to sit with you at the cafe is normal, as his best friend drags you from party to confess to you, aside from right at the end when we see the code saying, I will spread. The audio accompanying it says, but you can't see anything. There's also a weird pattern on the head area of the figure of the last frame. Akemi makes a community post on July 6th, so far the only community post on the channel. It reads, wow, we made it to 5,000. Thank you so much for supporting my little ASMR videos. There's a special announcement coming soon that I can't wait to share with you. And this time, nothing will get in the way. For the celebration of 5,000 subs, Akemi announces she's now on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. The image from the Comforting Your Scared Girlfriend video can be seen with a scary face instead of the regular thumbnail, and it is when this video is uploaded that the video is edited to remove that ending jump scare. Your tomboy best friend confesses that the library itself is normal, but there's a code hidden in the tags of the video, which are normally inaccessible without outside tools, reading, "You've gotten too many," with a deliberate cutoff. Your friend pulls you aside at a party has quite a lot going on. After the 7-minute mark, she starts breaking character, saying someone important to her is gone now and it's all her fault. A code flashes saying you don't deserve anything. She asks, why am I? And the pillow image appears, followed by a code reading, you could say I was one once. In my own hastiness, I found myself hurrying towards something I had no understanding of. In that moment, I was tainted. The glitching pauses and her eyes slide to look at the camera as she asks, who are you? The glitching kicks back in with a code reading, secondary component synchronization error, performing level 1 realignment. In the background, we can just barely see the image text is changed to read, XXXXX, is that you? Yandere breaks into your room, has a code when the speaker tries to introduce herself. It sounds like she's saying a name that starts with K, but is cut off by a code saying, why do you have my? Then, we hop straight to 8,000 transmission. It seems to be following some sort of experiment. It's trial 57 of the Omicron pattern connection. An Omicron, by the way, is a Greek letter resembling an O or circle. They're using variation OC17 for this trial. In phase 1, the subject is receptive and accepts the connection request, and we also see a flashed code saying, these aren't mine. Phase 2 has an artificial bridge generated to the subject. As phase 3 is about to start, we see the pillow image flash and a code appears that says, I never wanted to hurt you. When we cut back to the researcher, they seem surprised and excited that the trial worked, saying, are there really no mistakes? Then as the recording ends, the code on screen reads, everything shifted by 1, then the beginning appears. There's also a spectrogram to be found in the audio here, and it appears to be a logo in Japanese for Mirai Komachi Idol Adventure. Now Mirai Komachi is a fairly obscure Vocaloid, and whilst there's no existing IP named Mirai Komachi Idol Adventure, this does connect to a SoundCloud account which is also connected to Radish, which we'll probably go into shortly when it makes more sense to do so. I think this code was just to confirm the SoundCloud was connected to the ARG, since whilst it had been found, people weren't sure if it was connected. Your best friend realizes you two are a couple is completely normal, but your best friend realizes is very clearly not, from just the thumbnail, which is the first thumbnail of the regular ASMR ones to be off. It's the same script as the prior video, but has distortion at around 5 minutes, with Annabelle from Comforting the Popular Girl at a Party in the background. She appears behind the image girl before the video snaps back to normal. The description is mangled but the same as the prior video when decoded, with the exception of the words she's gone at the end of the first part. The video also has the coded tag happy endings. Your older bartender co-worker helps you out has a code in the video reading why do you have my, and a code in the tags reading voice, together being why do you have my voice. The girl also introduces herself as Mayuka, and as we get very few names, this may be relevant. Tomboy best friend makes a bet with you is normal aside from a code in the description reading I want to tell you something, and one of the tags reading 10,000, suggesting something large at 10,000 subs. Best friend accidentally confesses to you has a slightly weird description too, with the phrase join me for the next step, the next step, the next step, the next step. There's also codes in the video which look slightly different from the usual ones reading what's going on, where am I, what am I doing, and please someone answer me. Volleyball Captain Accidentally Spikes You has an interesting code that seems to respond to the video itself. When the speaker says 2 19-year-olds in high school, a code flashes reading, that chance was stolen from us. There's a second code at 9:58, but so far nobody's been able to crack it due to how blurry it is. I'll give it a go myself, but it's pretty unreadable, so if anybody figures it out, let me know. Roommate is jealous you have a date has this phrase in the description. alternate signature confirmed, preparing access points for reception, which seemed to set up for the next big drop, which comes up next. For the 10k milestone, a huge lore drop happened. Every known channel posted a video, as did all the socials. The main channel video had these lines in code. I will make them known. I will show you the truth, but I need time. Look for the answers I've given to you. The next will be soon. Please, anyone, make my voice heard. Each of the socials had a few coded phrases, and to me they sounded like each one comes from a different person. Instagram had, I can feel you calling out, wait for me, I'll find you. Twitter had, what am I feeling, who am I? And finally, TikTok had, I can feel you there, I'm gonna make this right, I'll find you, both of you. Finally, the individual name channels each uploaded a video. They all started with, reserved access point triggered, alternate signature confirmed, welcome Sakura. Remember Sakura? We heard that name in the mermaid video. This confirms the name is relevant. Then each video had a numbered phrase, which put together made a riddle. Each of these riddles led to part of a log, which we'll go over shortly. Another log part was found in the SoundCloud. To speak on the SoundCloud, there's 4 songs on there, one posted well before the ARG started, the others more recent. The oldest one seems to use Mirai Komachi as the singer. The singer is, however, weirdly referred to as Chikoro Komachi, as one word. The song doesn't seem super relevant though. The weirdly titled one can be decoded into memory interpretation log, but the sound is just weird noises, what sounds like someone, probably Mirai Komachi's voice, saying something, though I can't discern what, and a sort of sad or pained moaning sound. The one labeled Chikoro Komachi's new song is just music, but the last one, Chikoro Komachi no Kyoku, which also means Chikoro Komachi's song, is a long string of Morse that decodes into another log. I think it makes most sense to go over all the logs together at the end, and we're nearly at the end of the video so far, so we can try and put it together then. Let's go over the last couple videos very quickly first. Best Friend Finds You Alone on the Roof has the code level 3 realignment completed at the start. Both the next two, Your Yandere never gets attached to you and your bully is secretly crushing on you, have the phrase access point triggered in the description, and logs were uploaded on P. Mary and G. Bradley around the same time. Shy Best Friend shares a sleeping bag with you provides us one of the logs in the end code. Saving a Girl from Creepy Stalker and Girlfriend Wants to Spice Up the Night both contain the phrase, I've got a big surprise coming this year and I can't wait to show you in the description. The latter also has some distorted imagery in it, though it's not clear exactly what it is. Finally, there's a very big lore drop in this video. The title decodes to 15,000 transmission, so despite appearing as a sort of regular ASMR video, it's actually another transmission. It immediately glitches out and we hear Annabelle giving a public speech of some kind. She introduces her full name this time, though I can't quite make out her surname. I think it's something like Sylphide, like the ballet La Sylphide, or the Sylph in English. A sylph is an air spirit, by the way, though I'm not sure it's relevant. She tells us she was originally a volunteer who was hired at this company. She's now an active integration scientist. She wants to push the boundaries of what humanity thinks is possible. She was inspired by the organization's work and personally affected by it. She's receiving some sort of award for the company after some sort of breakthrough. May Lazarus live on and change the world for the better. There are 2 codes in this video, decoding to what is this and no, I won't let you talk this time. Someone is unhappy and is speaking here. The image text also changes at the end to you talk too much. That is all the videos so far on the channel. Now, finally, let's go through the logs. We can look at them all in chronological order of the dates provided within, and so you don't get sick of my voice, Emil will be reading them for us.
November 18th, 2015. As of the time of writing, the patient has undergone 3 days of preliminary examination. The physical wellness of the patient is satisfactory, and there have been no issues with the patient's motor functions. The following examinations will include an investigation of the patient's mental wellness, as well as multiple full brain scans to evaluate the patient's potential receptivity to the AMI treatment. November 21st, 2015. The patient's 6-day preliminary examinations have officially concluded. 2 additional full brain scans were conducted, as well as a treatment receptivity test, and the results have come back much more positive than was expected. The brain scans continue to show growth and development well ahead of the expected stages for the patient's age range. Considering the receptivity test, the patient showed an almost 85% receptivity to the mock treatment. This is 23% higher than anything previously recorded. This being the case, the patient has been moved from high potential to priority. Tomorrow, the patient will be placed into artificial mental stasis, and stage 1 of the AMI treatment will begin immediately. November 27th, 2015. This log marks the end of the 4th day of the patient's stage 2 treatment procedure. Upon inspection of the patient's root link following the 2-day recovery period, it was confirmed that it had set correctly with no issues. The patient was then prepped for it to be turned on. Following the activation of the root link, it was fully connected to the patient's brain within 5 minutes. No errors were noted, so the patient will be moved to the next stage of treatment immediately. It is planned to begin tomorrow. December 1st, 2015. The patient's 4th stress resilience test was conducted today. The results again revealed that the patient has significantly underperformed. The patient's root link returned a warning report detailing the potential for a first-degree mental fracture if testing continues. However, after consideration from it has been decided that the patient will continue to the completion of the Stage 3 treatment procedure. October 13th, 2021. This report marks another spike in Akemi's online activity. Her behavior continues to remain incongruent with expectations following the initial connection. Akemi continues to focus her attention on sites and information that promote creativity and artistic endeavors. In addition, she has also begun to more frequently extend communication to various users across multiple platforms. Furthermore, an unexpected trend has been determined within Akemi's interactions and manner of speaking. They are excessively juvenile, much more so than was originally anticipated. It is currently unknown as to why. Her actions will continue to be closely monitored. November 12th, 2023. This report is being written following a recent irregularity in the current activity of Akemi. A simultaneous synchronization error was recorded between the primary and both secondary components. This is only the second time that an incident like this has occurred. However, it has become cause for concern as the frequency of component destabilization has continued to increase over the last 6 months. In addition, a discovery was made regarding an encrypted reading returned this morning. What was unexpected about receiving this reading, however, is that it originated from the primary read and not Akemi herself. It is also important to note that this occurred twice today. The primary returned 2 readings, both of which are understood to be transmission messages. The first of which, previously mentioned, was intercepted before it was sent to its intended destination. The second was encrypted in such a way that we were unable to stop it from sending. The destination was a read that has been under observation. However, while nothing has been confirmed, it is possible that the second transmission was sent to multiple locations and contained more than one message. It is believed this occurrence is related to the sudden activity from the primary on August 30th of this year, which was concluded to be a transmission message as well. Before this date, it had been almost 7 years since it had returned any kind of reading. Furthermore, the incident on August 30th also resulted in a similar simultaneous synchronization error between all 3 components. However, the duration and magnitude was lower than what was recorded today. An additional instance of activity originating from the primary was recorded on November 9th of this year. However, no readings were returned and it is uncertain as to what the result of the activity was. The only similarity between the August 30th and November 9th instances is that both coincided with the activity from Akemi. The readings returned today revealed some things that, despite security concerns, had decided to allow for the time being in hopes of collecting more data. Akemi is making something again, something of a larger scale than anything previous. While the readings and primary readings are still being examined, she is expected to reveal more of the information on her own, as she's been observed to do many times prior. January 29th, 2024. This report is being written following a recent scan of Akemi's activity. Following the successful component realignment on December 4th, it was assumed that Akemi's frequency and level of activity would decrease. This assumption was only partially correct. Akemi's online activity has slowed considerably, however the readings for her overall level of activity have continued to show a steady increase. As of the time of writing this report, the reason for these readings is unknown. Looking back to the discovery made on November 12th, the reason can be broadly assumed, but nothing concrete has been uncovered. There is speculation, however, as to Akemi's current objective. One such speculation is that, given her apparent inclination for theatrics and attention, Akemi is currently creating something to be presented through an entertainment medium, as she's been previously seen to do with audio and video material. And it is entirely plausible that she chooses a medium that is interactive. This remains unconfirmed. Furthermore, due to the incident on November 12th, Akemi's method of remote communication have been under investigation. No further activity originating from the primary has been recorded, but it is speculated that Akemi is currently intentionally using back channels in order to mask the destinations of particular transmissions that she doesn't want to be seen. This also remains unconfirmed. This concern, as well as concerns regarding Akemi's independent activity, have been brought up with but no instruction to take any major preventative action has been made.
And there we go, that's all the content so far. Now let's look at some common themes and figure out how we can put this all together. There's a lot we still don't know about what's going on with Radish ASMR, which will hopefully be explained when the ARG concludes, whenever that will be. However, there's a couple things we might be able to figure out from what we have. First of all, let's talk Lazarus. At the moment, most people believe Lazarus refers either to a company or to the project being worked on within a company of some kind. For simplicity, I'll call the company itself Lazarus. Many people also suggest the pillow image is the logo of Lazarus, or a mirrored version of whatever the logo is. Technically, there's nothing to actually solidly suggest that within the media, but it is the going theory right now. As for the image itself, it's difficult to tell what it is. It could be the pillow, or to be honest it could be hundreds of other things. It's really hard to discern. It looks to me like it's been mirrored a few times. It also looks a bit like a Rorschach test. It seems that Lazarus is a well-known company, going by Annabelle's speech, that appears to work in something to do with human advancement. The specifics are a little tricky, but we can guess they're working with something to do with death, rebirth, and maintaining consciousness in some way. The name Lazarus is reminiscent of Lazarus of Bethany, someone who was brought back to life by Jesus in the Christian Gospel of John. This, plus use of phrases such as relive them and the cyclical Omicron, suggests we're looking at something to do with revival of some kind. The eligibility examinations might be people who signed up to be a participant in whatever project Lazarus is working on, of which there were either 10 applicants, or more applicants but only 10 that were accepted, but considered failures in the treatment for whatever reason. The test is of course very weird. It's probable that the treatment involves having a very specific mental state, and the questions somehow evaluate that. What they're actually doing is unclear. There's sort of two directions people think it could be. One is that they're uploading a person's memory or consciousness into the computer. The other is that they're creating an AI using these memories as the data. It's interesting that we have a connection with the Vocaloid Mirai Komachi. If you look into her backstory, she's a research scientist who emerged from a failed experiment. She comes from the future. One of the side characters of her story is a doctor that likes developing AI. I definitely think that could be more of a connection than just to indicate towards the SoundCloud, or at least to support this interpretation. Anyway, whichever it is, it seems we see this process occurring in 8000 transmission. As for the mentioned Omicron pattern, the things I would identify as patterns are the pillow image and the mermaid melody, either of which could potentially be used somehow in this experiment. The pillow image doesn't seem to resemble an Omicron, but the melody is cyclical, so that's more likely to me. Whilst the experiment initially seemed to succeed, something later went wrong, and now somebody's reaching out to the viewer for help. Possibly Annabelle, though we can't be 100% sure. It is the same voice actor, but I'll explain why I'm not sure if it's her in a little bit. Anyway, some entity is interfering with the project. We know from the logs of the existence of the primary and 2 secondaries. With the suggestion of a mental fracture in the logs, I think these are probably separate entities made from the same brain. Akemi is not the primary, as we see someone else referred to as that and distinctly not her, but she could be one of the secondaries. We only hear Akemi referred to, but the other secondary could be a similar thing. My interpretation is that the primary may be the original person, and Akemi and the other secondary are digital entities made from their brain state. What state the original is in, I don't know, whether there's a central upload of their mind, or it's the literal physical body still connected to the system. It seems the individual parts can desync from the main, leading to odd activity, but they can be resynced. Akemi is apparently more childish than expected, and wants to make creative projects. The wording makes me assume that Akemi is definitely the one making the ASMR videos. It also seems that Akemi and the primary are working together. Some transmissions originate from the primary, but Akemi is the one masking them so researchers can't block them. As for the other secondary, my suspicion is that it's the entity that's affecting the ASMR videos and adding the jump scares. We don't really hear anything about them from the logs or the obvious parts of the transmissions, and so far have no other potential source for them. They do seem to be the one inserting at least some of the coded commentary into the videos. It's also possible they're another patron of the program. As far as we can tell, there's only been one success so far, so it's possible they're a failed experiment. It's clear something went wrong, as 1000 transmission tells us that directly, and things now seem to be out of the researchers' control. As for what they want and why they're quote-unquote attacking, I'll explain what I think in a second, but let me explain some other elements of my perspective first. From the videos where the speaker breaks character, it sounds like whoever this is, Annabelle, Akemi herself, or perhaps someone else, is stuck in some sort of loop within the stories. If Akemi is the one making the ASMR, I doubt it's her within the ASMR. They seem at least partially aware of the loop, but the person they're speaking to is somehow important to them, so they keep pushing forward. The coded line, "Why do you have my voice?" is particularly interesting. Going with the theory of either AI or branching mind uploads, the speaker could be one of the fragments of the original mind. In the transmissions, we also get the impression that Annabelle has someone in real life she has a strong relationship with, as seen from the playful conversation in 3000 transmission. With the speech she made in 15,000 transmission, and her saying how Lazarus has affected her life personally, I wonder if this person is someone Lazarus word on uploading. It's possible it's someone she hurt in some way, going by the frequent references to not wanting to hurt someone. If the questions she's answering in 3000 are the same ones as in Tristan's examination, which I suspect they are, then she also answers yes to "Have you ever lost someone you cannot live without?" That brings us to the listener. The listener appears to me to be as much a character as any other, i.e. not us as listeners, but a specific character within the world. The exception to this is 1000 transmission, where we listeners are spoken to as a group. Aside from that, the character-breaking speech in Your Best Friend Calls to Check on You definitely implies the listener in all the videos is one specific person, and the XXXXX is that you from the Your Friend Pulls You Aside at a Party video implies it's someone she knows. My suspicion is that it's the person Annabelle is connected to in real life, perhaps even who was also uploaded as part of the project. So my main suspicion right now is actually that Annabelle is the primary, or the original mind that was uploaded, which split into Akemi and the entity due to the mental fracture. Why do I think it's Annabelle? Well, she directly calls herself that name in one video, and is the only other person we've seen who has a direct connection to someone else in the way the speaker does with the listener. Also, I'm pretty sure that 3000 transmission is her taking an eligibility examination, and I don't know why she'd be doing that unless she was submitting herself for the treatment. I feel like this is getting a little convoluted, so let me sum up my current thoughts on the plot. Remember, this is very much speculation, and we definitely don't have enough information to form a complete story yet, so keep that in mind. Annabelle is in a relationship with Listener, who I'll just call that for now since we don't have a name for them. Something happens, and she accidentally puts the Listener into a coma or other suspended animation state, likely while they were young. She knows of Lazarus and joins them first as a volunteer assistant, then moving up to a scientist position. They're working on uploading human consciousness online, and she wants to help the Listener by advancing this research to potentially resurrect them. However, when all their initial trials fail, Annabelle submits herself as a subject. She's a successful candidate, and her consciousness is uploaded. However, due to problems during the upload, her brain is fractured into two parts, called secondaries by the researchers. These become Akemi and the entity. Akemi is childish and becomes interested in doing creative activities, resulting in her making ASMR videos. To make these, she draws on her databanks of Annabelle's memories. The Annabelle in the videos is only partial, but she still to an extent retains memories of the listener and the past loops, which are just previous ASMR videos Akemi has made. It's like plugging a story prompt into an AI chatbot, but the characters in the story are sentient AI that retain small database knowledge of previous prompts. The entity is also in possession of Annabelle's memory data, but in a more fractured state, hence the "who am I and why do you have my voice" questions. As for why she's causing glitches in the videos, I'm genuinely not sure at the moment. It could be that she, having the same memory data, also has the same attachment to the listener and wants to be the one in the video stories instead, but to be honest there's not much to suggest that. Perhaps instead, she carries all of Annabelle's guilt at hurting the listener, and manifests that as harassing her in the videos, which kind of fits. Maybe she's a part of Annabelle's brain that didn't want to do the treatment at all, and that's why the split in consciousness happened, and now she's not happy about being uploaded. To be honest, I just don't know, and I think we need more information on that part. We also have these quotes which seem to go together, one from P. Mary's video, one from Your Friend Pulls You Aside at a Party. Young birds who leave the nest too early are doomed to suffer for their hastiness, but they are great to talk to. Stories that you can only hear from someone with a lack of bring great intrigue and unique perspective, however foolish they may sound. There's no going back for them, for they've already sullied themselves too early and must be rid of all. You could say I was one once. In my own hastiness, I found myself hurrying towards something I had no understanding of. In that moment, I was tainted. I think to me, this sounds like the entity talking about Akemi. Akemi is described as juvenile and certainly produces stories. If that's so, it implies they think Akemi is tainted in some way. I think the second part might be referring to Annabelle and her decision to do the experiment herself. Finally, there's the small quotes from the socials, of which I think the first is Akemi, the second the entity, and finally Annabelle herself, the primary. So why are Annabelle and Akemi trying to release these transmissions behind the researchers' backs? Perhaps Lazarus are doing something unethical, and they want to get the word out about it. After all, they did continue to push forward with Annabelle's experiment despite stress testing failing. We also don't know what, but something bad possibly happened to the 10 failure experiments. We have this from Comforting the Popular Girl at a Party. May drops in a great ocean, and yet together you hold the key to something important. Each tells a different story and a different lie. What brings us together is not our motive, but our circumstance. And yet all that resulted was failure. 10 failures to be replaced as fast as they were chosen. What am I then? And there's two particularly interesting eligibility examination videos, K. Maria and K. Olivia. K. Maria's is,
Are you relieved?
yes,
Why can you not see? Why are you here?
to begin. And K. Olivia's is,
Are you scared?
yes,
Do you miss her? Do you believe in beings beyond our understanding?
no,
Why are you here?
to end. She also has the coded phrase, "I would do anything for her," in the description. They share the same first letter of their surnames, and their last questions seem connected. The "do you miss her" is also interesting here. I wonder if they were sisters or wives, K. Maria going first for the experiment and something bad happening to her, then K. Olivia following to find out what happened to Maria. We don't have much information here, but I highly doubt Lazarus is doing all this completely ethically. The request from 1000 transmission for us to find Lazarus is interesting. We can tell from Annabelle's speech it seems to be a public, well-known company, unless this is an internal award presentation of some kind. So what would we need to find them for? Anyway, there isn't much grounding in this, but I wonder if the listener is one of the failures. If they're a present entity on the internet, they must have got there somehow. And if they're fragmented or otherwise damaged in some way, that would explain why Annabelle would be going behind Lazarus' back, with Akemi's help, to release the transcripts. The entity doesn't seem happy that she's doing it either though, so who knows. And what of Sakura? Seeing as she seems to have some sort of technical access, she's probably someone working at Lazarus. As for what her name ended up in the video script, perhaps Akemi just threw a random name out of her memory bank. If Sakura was the one who did Annabelle's upload, then it tracks that she was one of the last people Annabelle saw before being uploaded. So maybe she was the first name to be drawn. As for her purpose in the story, at the moment we don't really have any information. It's possible she's somehow connected to the mermaid melody, since that first appeared in the video her name was in, though how I don't know. If my theory that the Omicron pattern is the mermaid melody is correct though, that could support the fact that she was the one performing the upload. Music is a great memory trigger after all. Mayuka is another name we've seen, but we have absolutely zero information on if it's relevant yet, beyond the fact that it's the only presented name so far, with otherwise no outside connections. It's possible it'll come back up later. And with that, that's my current theories on Radish ASMR. This all could be completely turned on its head with the next video, of course. That's the issue with covering an unfinished series after all. And I know many people within the community have very different takes than I do, which is fine. You probably do as well. As it is right now, we simply don't have enough information to have a complete analysis. But let me know in the comments if you had a similar perspective or if you think the story is completely different. I'd like to hear your takes too. I'm very interested to see what Akemi will release next and what we'll learn with that. I hope we get some more solid reveals in the future so we can really start putting together what's going on with Lazarus and Akemi. In the meantime, maybe let's listen to a different ASMR channel when we want to sleep peacefully. And make sure to check out Emil's companion video on the ethics of including horror in comforting things. It should be linked in the info box and in the description. Thanks for watching today's Panopticon Theatre performance. What do you think? Did I miss anything? What do you want to talk about next? Make sure to sub and join the audience if you want to see more.